Welcome to the Mike on Much podcast. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. I'm here with my friend and trusty producer, Max Kerman. Max, what's up?
Yo, yo, yo.
We're also here with our pop culture aficionado, Shane Cunningham. Shane.
Yo, yo, yo.
You feeling good? So this is actually part one of our Coachella episode, where you're going to hear the first batch of all the interviews we did while we were out there in
Southern California.
You got it.
The desert.
But first of all, this episode is actually sponsored by Top Man, Max and Shane. You can shop new jeans from Top Man with 8 essential fits, from skinny and slim to straight and new wide leg. Top Man hooked us up with like a lot of cool stuff for this trip.
We look so cool. We got so many compliments.
It was almost embarrassingly cool, though.
What? Why?
Because I don't. It's nothing's funny about looking so cool.
That's true. No, people loved your bandana shirt from Top Man.
I know. Yeah,
very
I
cool.
never stopped wearing it after I started getting some compliments.
And
I wore
also
3 days
for
then.
our Kels fans who follow us on social, they was like, "Where'd you get that jacket? Where'd you get that jacket?" Came from Top Man. You know, credit to those guys for hooking us up and making us look fly.
You can check out what we were wearing too on Much's Instagram. I think we posted some stuff on ours.
Like, are we going to be on billboards or anything? Like, we got a big photo shoot.
Well, honestly, like all those shirts that I got from Top Man, like the cool thing is, it's like you get them because you're going down to Coachella and it's like they're setting you up. But then it's like I'm grabbing stuff because I'm like, this is my summer shit. I'm like literally taking this all back, and these are going to be my summer shirts going forward.
Yeah, I was trying to like joke it up and get really flamboyant clothing
For Coachella.
but now I realize I'm just a flamboyant guy. Like, I just like all that stuff.
Oh, of course.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you to Top Man for hooking us up with all that stuff. Coachella was great. Today on the show, we're actually, from that batch of interviews we did over those 2 or 3 days, we are talking to local natives, we're talking to tennis, and we are talking to Blossoms.
Tour mates of the Arkels, Blossoms.
That's right. They came in. I felt like there's a lot of mutual hugging and sort of friendship between you two.
It was very cool getting to talk to Blossoms because we did about 5 dates with them around Coachella, and we never actually really hung out with them at all when we were actually on tour. So the podcast was actually an opportunity to get to know them a little bit because we like each other, but we just hadn't had a chance to like sit around. So
Yeah.
it was nice.
All right, we're going to get to those. And if you want to hear about some of our experiences in Coachella, you can go back and listen to The Dessert in the Desert. I think there's part 1, there's part 2. iTunes, obviously, if you're listening to this now, you can then go back and listen to Dessert in the Desert from Coachella. Speaking of festivals, big thing's been in the news is Fyre Festival. This big festival that happened down in the Bahamas.
My baby. That's a Ja Rule impression.
Yeah, that was good.
I was like, what?
Ja Rule and this fella, I'm blanking on his name.
He's
right
like a
now.
25-year-old like business mogul dude.
Mover
He
and
invented an
shaker.
app or something. Yeah.
So they put together this huge festival. There's, they kind of got a lot of influencers like Kylie Jenner and
Bella Hadid
to like sort of tweet about it, Instagram posts.
Well, they start in an ad.
Did you watch it? It's like a minute 40 ad where you see the
they
private
oversold
jet.
it a little bit. It's like the ultimate fantasy can
didn't
be
have any-
yours.
they didn't-
I knew what happened, and I still wanted to go. The ad was so good. It's like, I want to be there.
You buy tickets to next year. Yeah.
It's actually happening next year.
I don't
according
know.
to them.
They're being sued for $100 million now, so who knows if that happens.
Yeah, it's like when a restaurant says close for renovations and you just know they're not actually going to have
Wendell
it opening
Clark's.
it.
Yeah.
Ooh. Yeah, I'm waiting to see that thing reopen.
So the reason this has been such a sort of a big story, and I think people have enjoyed it so much, is because really the only people that could go down to this festival are probably like wealthy, the kids of wealthy people, millennials that either have, been lucky enough to earn enough money at a young age, or they're spending their parents' money to go down to this sort of weekend of luxury. They get down there. It's like, they said it looked like a rescue zone or like a hat. It's tents. It was cheese sandwiches. It was nothing like this amazing ad.
Like, people compared it to the movie Mad Max. Which would seem like kind of fun, though, if you're just surrounded by all these like young, good-looking people.
Not if you spent like $20,000 to go.
Here's the thing. We just went to Coachella, and Coachella is beautiful and is like one of the most well-run festivals in the world. But I feel like all those beautiful people, if we were like on some weird gravelly area with like, the winds were soaring and like, it looked like the apocalypse was like about to happen. Like, people would not be in such a good mood like they were at Coachella because the grounds at Coachella are spectacular. The grounds at Fyre Festival were like, you just see like random cords running along the ground, like in catering. It's just like every part of it was poorly put together.
I think the reason that people are enjoying it so much is because it's really sort of a victimless calamity. It's like the people that were inconvenienced. It's almost it's a little bit enjoyable.
Oh, ja. I mean, there was a great tweet that said, like, Fyre Festival has done more to the 1% than the Democrats. Which that was really good.
Like, do you think, Ja Rule is ruined by this? Or do you think it's good press because no one knew?
I don't know if Ja Rule was really cooking before this.
Well, here's the thing. Ja Rule, was sort of a cartoon character in 2017. He definitely lost credit. This, I think, has sort of sunk him. Like if there was any sort of, if he was attempting to have some sort of like credibility in 2017 on like a cultural level, like in the way P. Diddy is, like nobody takes P. Diddy seriously as a rapper, but he's like still kind of a mogul. He was fashion. He's sort of like, he gets invited to the Met Gala. If Ja Rule is trying to like assert himself into that like an area of the culture, he's not going to ever.
So no chance for resurgence at this point.
No chance. But actually the one thing that I thought about was, you know, sometimes our Kels will get a gig offer from
Ja Rule?
From Ja Rule.
Here's a question. They end up somehow going through with Fyre Festival again next year. They say you guys get an offer. You play it?
I think it's just good publicity at this point.
Well, they're making the tickets free, they say, for next year.
For anyone that had a ticket.
For anybody who had a ticket. So, but our Kels sometimes will get a festival offer for like something like random in North Bay or like some like camping festival in Collingwood or something like that. And our agent, and sometimes the money will be actually okay, but our agents will be like, look, we don't know this promoter. They've never done this before. It seems kind of disorganized. And that's where your agents really come in.
If the money's right, though, will you do anything?
No.
No?
Well, that's the point, is that the agents are usually pretty good at sniffing things out and going, no, this isn't a real thing, or you got to be careful. Because actually, one time we did do a festival with you guys.
Yeah.
It was before the Grand Bend show. We did 2 gigs that weekend.
I remember. Yeah, so we were in a band called San Sebastian, and we'd kind of done a run of gigs together.
Yeah.
And we ended up on this festival. I'm doing air quotes right now together. At a place called like Country Camping or something.
Country Camping. And literally, so we played like the headline set at this campsite, like somewhere outside of London, Ontario. It was a very sort of hillbilly affair. And I was walking off like we finished the set.
I witnessed
walking
this.
off the steps, like, and the steps weren't attached to the stage. So I hit the first step going down, and then the whole staircase just fell and hit the ground. I fell down with it. And I was like, my legs are definitely broken. But then I just happened to like fall in between the steps, and I was totally fine. I walked away with like hardly a bruise, but it was one of those things was like,
it totally collapsed. And everybody, like I saw it, and everybody was like, oh shit.
Like you actually witnessed
I
this.
saw it, yeah.
Wow.
yeah. And we were like, we're going to sue these guys. Obviously they have no money. Nothing ever happened. But like, that's the kind of thing that you try to avoid by not signing up for rinky-dink festivals. Now, the amazing thing about this festival is like, and like they, you know, had Blink-182 playing. Like the headliners were like Disclosure, like internationally acclaimed headliners who were probably demanding, I mean, Blink-182 would probably get $1 million to $2 million for that gig.
Yeah.
And they clearly fooled Blink-182. Like they fooled everybody.
Well, have you seen the ad?
Yeah, I know.
It's
That's
pretty
what I'm saying. Yeah,
convincing.
Blink-182 just watched the ad. I'm like, I want to go there.
Well, they backed out the day before, though, still. And there was rumors that the bands knew they were going to back out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's a bunch of weird stuff going on with this thing.
So that's how not to do a festival. Coachella, that's how you do a festival. And I mean, getting back to Coachella a bit, it's like, that's something that I wouldn't have done. And, you know, you hear people all the time, you know, you see girls on social media, and they're like, oh, Coachella, like I every year it's like my thing. And I'm always like, okay. And then you go and you experience, and Shane and I were kind of talking about this one night after like sort of a long day of doing interviews and running around the festival. It's just like a really well done festival. I mean, there's not a speck of garbage anywhere. It's like on the Polo Grounds, so it's like really fancy. Everybody there like looks great. It's definitely like a richer crowd, and you kind of feel like you're part of this, I don't know, 1% or whatever the hell it is, because you got to have money to go to this festival essentially. And something I never would have done, but getting to do it through the pod, I'm like, oh, I get it. I get why people treat this as such a big deal. It's not like any other festival.
Yeah, it was pretty magical. I usually don't buy into the festival hype, as you're sort of
That's what I'm
alluding
kind of
to.
getting at.
Is it the best festival in the world, you think?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, if you're a listener, obviously getting the chance to go
Start a podcast.
find a way there. But I'm grateful that we got to. It's something we wouldn't have done. And I totally acknowledge that a lot of people will never get to go and kind of like hang out at a festival like that.
Well, we had the artist wristbands too. We could literally go wherever we wanted.
It was pretty magical. Yeah, thanks, Maxie.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The
They
hookups,
made it
brother.
that much more fun for me.
Are we doing it again next year?
We're doing it again. That'd be awesome. Can we?
In a heartbeat.
Yes.
If the pod doesn't get canceled, we're going.
We're going.
Are we going to Oshiega?
Yeah, we are going to Oshiega. Well, actually, I don't know that for sure.
Yeah, maybe we shouldn't
Okay.
announce that.
All right.
Whatever. We'll
Cut that
bleep it
part.
out. Nah, we'll leave it in. So, the other big thing that happened, should we talk about this?
Let's get into it.
All right, so we're recording this a day after the Raptors game 1 of the playoffs against the Cavs. So a bunch of me and Shane and a bunch of guys that we have worked with over the years at Much decided to get together and watch game 1. The reason this is important is because during game 1 and everybody's having drinks and interacting, somehow in our Champagne Boys message group,
It was actually my fault.
brings up the Heineken ad. I don't know if you've
It
seen
was
it.
me. I said, "Hey, Nut, what do you make of this new Heineken ad?" Because he's a man of many brands. He loves brands. And I wanted to get his feelings on what he thought of this Heineken ad.
So this Heineken ad, if you haven't seen it, essentially they take two people with opposing sort of worldviews and thoughts on a myriad of subjects, and they make them build a structure together. So they kind of have to work together without knowing the other one's views. They just are sort of working together. They eventually build this bar, and then it's revealed that, if you're a guy that's against transgendered people, he's been making this bar with a transgendered woman. And then they have to decide whether or not they want to have a Heineken together after they've worked to build something together, and then got to know each other over this sort of span of time. And it's pretty heartwarming. They all decide to stay and have a beer with one another. And I thought the ad was really effective. So Maxie puts it in the group. You want to take it from here, Shane? The reason it's important is because we were trying to watch this basketball game, and then Shane literally went down a rabbit hole of fighting with everybody in the group.
Well, it's just Mike D.
Okay, hold on. Before we get to that, you should explain some of the players here.
Okay.
Because the Champagne Boys in our message group, there's 20 guys, and depending on the subject matter, people are prone to
Piping in.
Piping.
Okay, so Max throws in the ad. Someone says, Max, how long did it take you to cry at the ad? Max is like, I was crying right away. You really liked it.
I enjoyed it, yeah.
So Dan, who we've talked about a lot, and then Mike D, who plays guitar in the Arkells, both felt that the ad was disingenuous. It's selling a brand. Patronizing. We're all being taken for a ride.
That it's definitely actors.
Yeah.
Which just made me mad.
Well, you're getting hung up on some smaller details. Anyway, so they were saying that. We'll get to you in a second, Shane. They were saying that stuff. They hated it. Meanwhile, the Nut is loving the ad.
Hey, here's the most miraculous thing. The Nut and Shane teamed up. Usually they're the ones that are going against each other, and they basically teamed up to defend the ad. Mike D and Dan were absolutely against the ad. So anyway, it turned into this whole conversation that probably took place for an hour and a half during the middle of the game. So now we'll get it from Shane's perspective.
I just feel like it's hard to do anything these days. Literally, if you do something amazing, it's almost a sign you've done something amazing if a bunch of people are criticizing it. Or if you
Pepsi ad excluded?
Well, if you do something very bad, it's going to get ridiculed. If you do something amazing, it's going to get ridiculed. Really, the only safe ground is doing something mediocre that goes unnoticed. So this ad was so good and so effective. I cried watching it. I would say most people who or have a heart would might shed a tear at it. It was really well done. It felt, if these are actors, here's the thing. Some of them are actors for a profession. They are. And then that's where people get confused. So there's a lot of hype these are actors, and some weren't.
In the ads?
Yeah, but that's not to say that they were acting. Actors are still people too. And a lot of actors aren't good. You can't just get any B-movie actor to act emotionally. If you see any prank thing on YouTube, you know when it's fake. You know when it's real.
Absolutely.
Anyone has the ability to sniff that out. And I'm particularly intuitive at these sort of things. I feel like, I could be wrong, but I felt like it was dead on real and really well done. So when people put it down, I just think of myself too. Geez, this is what I do for a living. If I do something really good, it's going to be a bunch of guys slagging on it simply because of brands involved. And Mike D, who's your lead guitarist, was saying, the message was all world problems are going to be solved if we just sit down and have a beer. I don't think the commercial was taking a broad leap like that. It was just saying if we talk to one another, it can help break down boundaries in some small way.
Yeah, I'd say both Dan and Mike's views were a little more nuanced than that. And I think what it comes down to more than anything is that there are some personality types that are just allergic to brands trying to sell human rights for the purpose of moving beer shipments. And I understand, I can appreciate if somebody's just as soon as that happens, wants to turn the TV off. I guess my question and why I thought it was sort of an interesting conversation is what's the alternative? If you're saying beer ads should only be awesome, I don't know, the Dutch team scoring a soccer goal or something,
right.
Something that's very apolitical. If you're saying that any brand should just stick to weird, crazy, artistic visuals or something like that, or comedy,
or people partying,
or people partying.
Yeah.
If that's what you think it should be, then that's okay. If you think brands should stay out of that conversation altogether, that's okay. That's your opinion. But if you think that there's a little wiggle room, then I think they did a great job of executing an ad that encouraged getting to like know someone on a human level. Because ultimately, I think when it comes to the prejudices around the world, especially in like say America, most of the time people just don't know the people they think they hate. And I think this ad was a pretty good example of people getting to know each other and realizing that they're more in common than they think, and there's a human inside of that person. And I think that's a nice idea. And I the thing I put in the group was, if this ad was done by, I don't know, a nonprofit or some, a PSA, I don't think people would have any negative reaction to it. I thought it'd be like, get to know your neighbor.
But what's weirder too about Mike D is he likes the Dove ad, which is every woman's beautiful or whatever.
Yeah.
Like he likes that. It's just they're just selling soap.
Yeah.
Like it's weird he doesn't see that it's the same.
I think, okay, I talked to Mike on the way home today about this. We invited him on the pod just for the
extended an
record. And he
invite.
was like, I don't want to be the cynical asshole on the record. I'll be that in private and in the champagne. But I think if anything, his anger over the ad. No. And I say this in a way that, which we should all have sympathy for and understanding about, is that he just found it hurtful that the minority group or the person or the people that are being prejudiced have to again be subject to these hateful people and have to be the bigger person and have to take the high road and have to be the person that reaches out. And I understand, like, and that is
They're being put in a room with their oppressor.
Yeah, exactly.
Or someone that doesn't
and it's
agree
up
with
to
them.
to be the bigger person, despite the fact that they're the minority and they're the ones being oppressed.
It's an interesting point.
And I think, and that is just a very hurtful thing to think about. And that's, I think, ultimately was the root of why Mike hated that ad so much. But again,
let's say the transgendered woman didn't want to have a beer with that guy because of his views.
Exactly. Yeah, it could have gone both ways.
That would have been fascinating. It doesn't feel as good, right? But like you said, she almost has to be a passive participant
for the ad to work. Yeah.
For the ad to
and
work,
of course, there was scenarios. They only showed really that one storyline all the way through.
Yeah.
You guarantee they tried this with a bunch of people, and it just simply didn't work out.
And he pointed that out too. He's like, I'd love to see the outtakes. With people who didn't get along at all. And said, F this, I'm out of here.
It just makes me scared to do anything, put anything out there. And obviously, recently I got burned for attempting something, which I'll talk about at the dessert, I guess. But
That's actually a great
so I'm
natural,
hypersensitive about this stuff.
That's a natural tease for the dessert. We're going to get to that after these interviews, but we're going to get to these Coachella interviews right now. We're going to have, should we start with local natives, Max?
Let's start with local natives.
We'll start with local natives, then we'll go to tennis, and then we'll go to Blossoms. What should we say about these artists for people that maybe are just tuning in?
Local natives is a big get. They're a beloved.
They were the coolest band, right?
Yeah,
like
the
hottest
SoCal
band, I should
band.
say.
Yeah, their sets were incredible. I saw them both weekends. They did an awesome Kanye West cover that we talked about in the interview.
Yep.
They're also the favorite band of our friends AJ and Al, my roommate. And we had a couple special questions for them. I don't know if we're keeping those in the podcast.
We're keeping it.
We're keeping them.
We're keeping it all.
So they were very cool guys, and I've been a big fan of them for a long time.
We also interviewed Tennis, a husband and wife.
Ooh, yeah. They were very cool.
They were very cool.
They're actually a favorite of my roommate and your brother, Greg.
That's right.
Greg was very excited about that interview.
And then Blossoms, your British buddies.
Yeah, who look and sound like the Beatles to me.
Yeah, so we did this in sort of like a media area that was part of like that backstage artist village that Shane and I had access to thanks to Max. And Shane was there for all of these interviews. And one of the cool things that this doesn't happen very often, Shane actually got to ask a question in every interview.
I tried to ask the stupidest question I could. And because it's so dumb, I feel like it's disarming in a way. And it actually worked because it kept the interview going, and it made it kind of just a fun talking point for a bit. And it kind of like when the interview would wrap up, I'd ask my question, and then there'd be like 3 or 4 more minutes to the interview. So my plan worked, I thought.
Yeah.
And my question was, is Coachella cool?
So you will hear Shane pipe in with that near the end of every interview. So right now we're going to get to local natives, followed by tennis, followed by Blossoms. And then after that, we're going to do the dessert. Talk some more Coachella.
Stay tuned.
All right, let's jump into this thing.
Sweet. Is this all good?
This is all
here?
good.
Cool.
I can hear you guys real good.
nice.
Cool. Great show, by the way. How'd you guys feel about the show just now?
Thank you.
Great. Yeah, I felt really good. Felt like both weekends were
we're successful.
Yeah, actually, one of those things, like when you guys do a show where you do 2 weekends, how much do you change about it going into the second weekend, or do you try to stay pretty true to what you did?
It's funny you ask that. We have a group text chain.
iMessage chat.
Yeah. Well, it's WhatsApp. Because
One guy doesn't know an iPhone.
Yeah.
You're the guy who.
No. He's cool.
Never do that.
Okay.
Matt and I are cool. It's Nick who f***s it up. But yeah, so we had a long text chain about switching up the set, and everyone's like, yeah, let's do this, let's do that, and we went like in a million different directions, and then after like 50 texts, we were like, let's stick with the same set.
So you end up coming back to the same spot.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard just because we're playing all the time, and you want to have it feel fun, and you want to have it feel. It's just exciting for us.
We're always excited to try new things, try different transitions, try different songs we don't always play.
Yeah.
But we're like, it's 2 different weekends, it's 2 different crowds for the most part. Let's, and we felt super solid that last weekend. Let's just like stick to what's working.
Yeah, you don't have a lot of repeat, so it's like people are like, they did this last week.
Right, yeah. No one's like, oh, same set.
Right. No,
that's the chant.
That doesn't really
Same
happen.
set.
Yeah. And then, like, if you're doing 2 nights in a row in a city,
Sure.
it's a little different.
Yeah.
But with like the festivals like this, and ACL is 2 weekends as well, and like whatever is doing, two in a row. Yeah. We worked on this set on the shows leading up to the first weekend of Coachella.
Yeah.
So we were trying to dial it in beforehand.
You guys covered Kanye both weekends.
Yeah. Kanye West.
Yeah.
I love that. That's like my favorite tune.
Well,
I was waiting for the chance verse, though. Who would have volunteered?
I started it. Oh, man. We were already a little nervous to be covering that song. He's such a huge artist, and like, we didn't want to step on any toes, you know. I mean, it can be a sensitive thing, I feel like, in this day and age to cover. I mean, like, he's like a hip hop dude, and we're a bunch of like white dudes from Orange County. So like, it can be tricky. But
Are you religious at all?
I was.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, I love Chance the Rapper. Like, he's
Sure.
my favorite.
Oh, yeah.
And he's very Christian.
Yeah.
And I love everything he has to say, but I'm not Christian at all. But I
Right.
like all the things he talks about, like praising the Lord. I'm like, I'm all about it. And we've covered a Chance song, too.
Oh, cool.
Same Drugs. But
Nice. I love that song.
That's a beautiful song.
I'm the piano ballad guy.
That
So
means-
that's
yeah, anything
right
that
up
you
your
can like
alley.
sit down at
Yeah.
home and play yourself is
Sure.
awesome. But that Kanye song is very like religious, but
Right.
it's just a beautiful song.
Well, it feels very, very currently with where the United States is in, because I know you guys are from Toronto.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, shit is fucking super weird right now, and everyone is very concerned and very, on the edge of their seat, waiting for the next crazy thing to happen with Trump in office. And so I think that song oddly has become some sort of an anthem of promoting peace and promoting unity, and so ironically from a guy who is kind of an instigator and kind of always trying to rile people up, but that song really came at such an amazing time right before, like in the year of the election, and then to live on past that, it rings true right now, I think.
Well, when something like Trump being elected happens, and you're watching, and whether you vote or not, and say it affects you negatively, you don't like the result, or you're like, this is going in the wrong direction.
Say you're like a sane person.
That's what I was getting at.
Right.
How do you process that? Do you kind of like, it's a step back, you go, shit, like this is happening. Do you then sort of like try to channel that into music, or feel like it's something you want to speak out on, or do you kind of prefer to take a step back and observe?
I think this whole record cycle, this is the first time we've really ever attempted to kind of step into that world a little bit. Because not that we all like wanted to stay hands off, but it just...
Well, we have been hands off for our whole time writing music.
Because it's a tricky situation. It's to ride that line and to like...
You alienate fans.
Right.
You close the door on some people who don't agree.
Especially with how divided everything is now, that's like super inevitable that's going to happen. But we all felt so passionately that it's like we have, whatever this platform is that we have like somewhat of a soapbox. We can like say something,
absolutely,
and something that we all truly passionately believe in, and like So it just felt like a no-brainer to like kind of step into it and kind of have somewhat of a voice.
Yeah, I feel like the way you did it though was really good because it wasn't you're like, I'm a Democrat or I'm a liberal. You just said, I appreciate unity and the idea of love and being generous. And that's like, that's hard to argue no matter what side of the aisle you're on. I know people can still take it in a negative way if they choose to.
Yeah.
But I thought the way you did it, especially at the end there.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Nicely, because that's what.
Well, I mean, the core of it is that he really is getting to this spot or channeling into this vibe of there is that it's not about party lineations. It's not about like what side you're on. It's literally, it feels very black and white. Like there is someone for banning people coming into the United States, but someone who's against female equality. It's just like all these red flags, all these things that are just like, if you're a person
and like a point of pride for them, which is a very weird thing.
Yeah, it's really strange, and they're really getting off on being an outsider and just being. And I get that there are politics as usual is very tiring and can be something you get super fed up with very quickly. But I mean, yeah, it became something that didn't feel like, oh, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, it's a thing that affects everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. On your last record, there's photos from sort of all over the world. Can you talk about how you made the record and the mindset of sort of writing and recording in different places?
Yeah, we kind of wanted to mix it up a little bit and try to get out of our comfort zone, and we ended up getting a couple opportunities that kind of I think triggered this desire to want to try to be in different parts of the world and different places. And we basically, 2014, end of the year, we got this offer to play a show in Malaysia. It was a one-off, and then we ended up kind of shifting it into this whole like 2.5 week long writing trip where we had some friends that had a studio in Thailand. We went there for 2 weeks, and that was kind of kicked off the official like writing, recording sessions of Sunlit Youth. Yeah. And it was such a positive experience to kind of be in a totally different world and kind of, absorb that and see how that affects the music. And
yeah, it's always fun to put yourself in a new environment and see how that affects things, because you can never predict how it's going to affect.
Do you have different producers throughout the record, or how did that work? Largely
is co-produced with this dude Brian Joseph, who's from he helped engineer and helped work on the second Bon Iver record. He's in the Bon Iver camp.
Okay, cool.
And he's really cool. And he's here this weekend, and I haven't seen him, and I'm very sad.
Brian,
if you're listening,
he's like,
this doesn't make any sense. You can't hear it. It's gonna be like so far after
live,
Coachella.
Right? Yeah.
But yeah, so we bounced around. We went to a bunch of different places, but at the same time, LA was still a big part of it. Like we had moved into this new practice, like this rehearsal space. So we kind of made our own, and it felt very comfortable there. And so a lot of it was actually made in LA as well.
Okay.
So that was like the common thread throughout bouncing around to different parts of the world.
Was there any drawbacks to bouncing around? Did you find anything that didn't work,
I don't think so. I think it really fed the creative process this time around.
I think it pushed us to try maybe more uncomfortable things, like where we were in like Nicaragua and we didn't have like a full studio or full like normal setup, and
we were basically in like a hotel that felt like a hostel because they had like a big community like open air room where everyone would eat lunch and dinner, and it's really strange. It was like this place where it felt weird not to say hello to everyone there. Just very the opposite of normal life, where you're trying to just do your thing, head down, like don't bother anybody.
You're forced to engage.
Yeah, right. And they had a makeshift studio, but it wasn't something that was super nice or anything. And we had to adapt to writing in those conditions, or like being in Joshua Tree, where like Ryan and Taylor and I took this writing trip just to write lyrics, and we didn't have any instruments there besides like an acoustic guitar. And so we were just putting ourselves in all sorts of different scenarios to see what would happen.
Yeah.
So, okay, we got to wrap this up in a minute, but so our dear friends from back home are the biggest local Natives fans, and they've seen you like dozens of times. Ian is getting married and wants you to come. He'll pay he's got a rich father-in-law. Have you done any weddings? It's in St. Martin in March. Sorry, in August.
We just did a wedding, actually.
Was it for a friend or was it for a rich person?
It was a friend of a friend who was a rich person. It ticked all the boxes. Yeah.
Well, we're all friends now, and we have a rich person footing the bill. So if you want to sing their song down the aisle, we'll arrange it.
You don't have to say no now, but think about it.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll read the email.
Okay.
I'll read the proposal. I'll see what's on the table.
I dig it. All right, we'll change some emails then.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And then I think Shane here.
Shane has one question.
1 second, I gotta load it. You guys are obviously a very cool band, and Coachella is obviously a very cool festival. Or is it? What are your thoughts?
I refuse to talk any shit on Coachella. Coachella is our hometown festival. We've been here. I think we were here like 3 or 4 times before we ever even played.
Yeah,
Oh, really?
I remember coming like here in 2007 or something like that, or 2006.
Yeah.
And like we all just like raged all weekend.
Well,
And,
we were in the somehow I got conga line started in the Heineken Oasis beer tent.
Nice.
And then I was really into getting drunk and doing cartwheels at the time. So
That's a good pastime.
I did a cartwheel and everyone was pumped, and then everyone was like, do it again, do it again. They chanted, and I can't remember what it was. But I did it again, and then I broke my arm.
Shit.
Yeah. And so I got up, and I like kind of couldn't feel anything, and I was, oh my God, I think I really hurt my arm. And we walked outside the tent and talked to this, like, there was like a security guard, police officer dude. It's like, hey, have you ever dealt with someone who broke their arm? And he's like poking my arm. It's like, do you feel anything?
Shit.
Like, no, I don't feel anything. And he's like, oh, you're fine. I'm like, oh, thanks, man.
Yeah.
And then 6 hours later, I'm in traffic trying to get out of the festival, and it's swollen up to like the size of a bowling ball.
But to the original question, we do. I mean, it's like our hometown festival. So we've all been here a million times as fans, and we've now played it 3 times, and so it feels very special to play.
Oh,
here.
we love it.
For sure.
Yeah, there wasn't any condescension or anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, and actually, you know what? We just talked to Tennis yesterday, and
Oh, nice.
they were talking about like how they came as fans and saw like Broken Social Scene back in 2008.
Yeah.
I
or
saw
whatever.
Broken
I think we
Social
were
Scene.
there.
There you go.
Yeah.
They're all
And
friends
they
of
like
ours.
did a proposal or something.
Yeah.
I was somebody proposed to their significant other on stage, and I remember
Have you
it
ever
was
done any of those
amazing.
before?
We have not.
We've done a few.
Yeah? Oh,
So-
amazing.
Yeah.
Someone actually did one, like not connected to us. We were playing Ceilings on the last tour last year, and all of a sudden this like pit opened up in the middle of the crowd, and I was thinking, oh shit, someone passed out or something. and they
Usually,
didn't
if
go to
a
hospital.
pit opens up, somebody fainted or
It's not good
somebody's
news.
hurt.
No.
Yeah, so
But
we're really
someone
concerned.
was
We stopped the
proposing.
song.
They were we stopped the
Oh
song.
shit.
Yeah.
Nice.
Listen,
And-
but I'm saying you guys have so many atmospheric, beautiful moments. Is if you coordinate with like the dude, just bring him on stage, it's like a Friday Night Lights montage.
Right.
It'll be amazing. People will lose their shit.
Yeah,
Anyway, just a thought.
Yeah.
I'll talk to all my single friends. I'll try to see if they can find somebody at
Make
the
it
festival.
happen?
Yeah.
I guess lastly, because we got the couple
Oh, yeah,
minutes
okay.
to wrap it up. Are there bands and artists that you're listening to right now that might, direct the next batch of music that you guys are making?
Because each record's pretty different. Like, I feel like there's different influences. Who do you listen to right now?
I mean, well, for the most recent record, we just kind of been listening to a lot more hip hop and like electronic music, and not as many nuclear bands, like Nuclear Family, like where it's like a singer, a bass player, a guitarist, and a drummer. Like that kind of stuff isn't maybe happening as much these days. I don't know. We're just like not listening to a lot of that stuff, but I don't know. Currently, I really dug that Sampha record.
Yeah.
I mean, he's all about piano ballads, it seems, too. I mean, he's got like The Couple or whatever, but I loved that shit.
Yeah. I got super into that. Well, I mean, that Bonobo record. He played yesterday.
Yeah.
So I was pumped to see him. And I've been a fan of his for a long time. So
That's cool.
got pretty into that record.
All right, well, this is awesome. Thank you, guys. This
Thanks
is
so
really,
much for your time.
Yeah.
No
big
worries.
fans.
And we'll see you at that wedding in St. Martin.
Yes. See you there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Matt, you come too, man.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds
Sweet.
good.
Well, is this part of the interview?
Yeah.
Okay.
Kind of just start rolling,
Okay.
you know.
Are you into podcasts, by the way? Do you guys a podcast
immensely. Yeah. Yeah, that's how we pass time on our road trips.
band? Yeah. What are your favorites?
Well, we're all devastated that S-Town is over.
Oh,
How
yeah.
good was that?
Like, it was
Too
like
good. It, like life-changing, actually.
a Faulkner novel or something. Like, I did not want it to end.
Do we need to just make this whole podcast about S-Town?
Has
Well,
everyone
I
brought
mean,
this up?
Abandon
No,
the questions.
no. Well, the three of us have listened to it, but we've been waiting to talk on our show about it because I was still trying to catch up. They'd both listened to it. So we were going to have a big discussion about it,
Yeah.
but we haven't done that yet. So.
But
yeah.
for me, I'm like more of a coast-to-coast guy. Like I really like conspiracy
That's not a
theories.
podcast, though. It's
They
a
have
radio
a
show.
podcast,
They
and I
do?
downloaded
Okay.
quite a few. I listen to it secretly because my wife doesn't approve of it.
Well, I like it. I just... No, I barely
You don't
like
like
it.
it.
I mean, I like it conceptually, but
I
it's
love
so
it.
boring. Yeah. It's just like old dudes talking about conspiracies.
And there's like a lot of call-ins. Do you know? It's like,
Oh,
do you know
really?
this?
It's like talk
Yeah.
radio, kind of like.
It only airs at midnight. But,
Oh, that sounds
but they
like
have a
good AM talk
podcast
radio.
form. Yeah.
Okay, so you can listen on the road. Did you
Yeah.
listen to
Yeah.
S-Town, though?
Yeah.
John,
I-
yeah,
we
you said
all
that life
This is
listened,
what
yeah.
we agree on is
Yeah,
S-Town.
that's
That's
our
the middle,
common ground.
That's where the
yeah.
Venn diagram
Yeah.
crosses over.
Did you
John B.
see his-
McLemore bringing people together.
Absolutely.
God, yeah.
Fascinating guy.
Did you see his suicide coming? Like when, like. 'Cause
I
that's
was
sort of-
really heartburken.
Yeah, it took me.
I was
yeah.
shocked.
Yeah.
by
Yeah,
surprise.
I didn't think he would. Yeah, I
We're going to
thought
have to cut that for people that
he was
haven't heard
too
that.
blithe. Well,
I'm
just
sorry.
put it.
Just
No,
spoiler.
Joe, leave it
Spoiler
in. Just
alert.
put a spoiler on the.
Yeah, we'll take it in.
Absolutely.
And
right.
also add explicit in case I suddenly swear a lot.
Oh, yeah.
No,
Yeah,
you-
right.
yeah.
Explicit spoilers,
Not
all
safe
the
for work.
warnings.
On
Yeah.
Yeah.
this podcast,
Yeah.
you can swear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
Not safe for
fuck.
work. Great.
All right, well, let's just get started.
Yeah.
So, like, on this pod, like, we've talked to a lot of people. We like to get into sort of the minutia of how people do their work, the mechanics of it, and specifically touring. So, like, for this run, like, you know, around Coachella, you guys are doing dates with local natives, then Spoon. What does your touring sort of operation look like? You know, like, how many crew? How are you traveling?
It's so sparse. We're just like the more people we add to our crew, the more stressed out we get.
Because the person that we'll never add to our crew is a tour manager.
Oh, interesting.
So Pat and I run the show, and so yeah, the more people we bring on, the more little birdies to herd from.
But for numerous reasons,
point to
though, but we
point.
feel like the tour managers is something that, like, if
We
we're not
don't
connected
need
to
yet.
our crew and band, like, intimately, and we don't know what everyone's doing, and we don't, like, I don't know, monitor that stuff, we kind of, like, freak out.
Not like we're so big we couldn't be. We're in a 15-passenger van with a trailer, so it's not like.
Still, though, but I
you
mean,
know,
managing all that, do you ever find it overwhelming? I mean, you guys obviously have other duties.
Yeah, like right
performing.
now is like today is overwhelming. Yeah, with everyone and like, how do we get my girlfriend in and where's my wristband and whatever? And I'm like,
tired.
yeah.
I want water.
Where's the food? I'm like, I don't know. But everyone is amazing. We have a great band. We work really hard to hire people that suit our we're like all very adult, autonomous humans. Like everyone can get themselves up on time. Everyone can show up where they need to be.
Nice.
We have like a lot of trust. And we really, really love the people we have right now. We have a small crew, 4 people on stage. We have front of house, merch, and that's it. Right now, my brother did lights on our headlining tour.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, he had no idea how. We just wanted to bring my brother on the road, and he learned on the fly, and it was amazing.
We're totally devaluing, like, a very...
He had no idea what he was doing. He will admit it openly,
Yeah.
but he like busted his butt and was amazing. But we just were like, how can we bring my brother on tour? You're
Yeah.
gonna do lights.
You two are married, right?
Yeah.
How does that
Yeah.
work? Because I can't imagine working side by side with my partner. Is that like?
I
but some
can't
people do it.
imagine not being with him for all these dates.
Yeah.
Like we're gonna be on tour for the next 2 months.
Oh wow.
Our bass player is married, and they have an amazing, very independent relationship. She knows music is the most important thing to him, and she's a musician as well, and she wants him to play music. It's like totally cool with them, and they've worked it out. But Pat and I, I don't know, maybe we're really codependent or something, but we don't like to be apart. So
like
Well, there's
the
something to be
experience,
said for having, you know, I guess similar interests and being on the same page, meaning like you've both agreed to this lifestyle, which is obviously very unique and not a conventional sort of career. I guess my question would be like, what are the benefits of being married and sort of being, you know, running a business and sort of being in music? And then also
Yeah.
what are the the more negative aspects.
Well, I mean, we're very similar people, so like we can like address an issue or a problem together and like kind of divvy it out between the two of us to get something done. So that's like the best part is like we can both see a problem the exact same way and be like, hey, this is what we should do to take care of it. And like, I'll do this, you can do that. We're both on the same page.
Yeah, it's like a profound intimacy, basically.
Yeah.
And we try to conceptualize it as negotiating two distinct freedoms. So even though we're married, we really resist the idea of us like blurring into a unit, which is why we don't have the same last name. And we try really hard to remember that we're just two separate humans who like live our life in parallel. We aren't just blobbing into this amorphous human where we like stop noticing each other's needs or whatever. So
we're not gonna like wear a zoot suit together anytime
Wet
soon.
Hot American Summer style, no, but we should.
Zoot suit, The Mask. Remember Jim Carrey? I feel like Zoot Suits came back when that movie was
absolutely
happening. When you guys play a sort of a festival like this, how do you guys devise a set list? You know, is it sort of, are you looking at, you know, Spotify and what sort of?
Yeah, we do,
a little bit.
actually.
At the same time, like we're so worried of like people like getting like bored or like talking over us or something like that.
We try to do the bangers. Not that tennis has quote unquote bangers, but like the most driving songs that we do have.
Yeah.
That's what we usually focus on.
Yeah, we're not going to pull out like an acoustic song in the middle of the set.
No.
You got 40 minutes to make it rain.
We're just going to bring it real down here. Yeah, exactly.
As much sub bass as we can muster out of your keyboard.
This last recording that you guys did, you did at sea on your boat?
We wrote it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then
so
we
you didn't
came
record
back.
it on the water?
We did record it ourselves, but we did it in a cabin in Colorado because we live in Colorado. And so when we finished the trip and we got the album all wrapped up, we rented a cabin up in the woods and just did it, the two of us.
Well, when you're writing on a boat or recording in a cabin, I mean, a boat, it's like such an interesting narrative anyway to write on a boat. Is that something that you think is sort of integral to the process for this record, or is it sort of just kind of like a cool narrative that's like, you know, kind of a fun, easy sort of press release?
And I'm always
story?
curious as a guy in a band who hates figuring out what press releases ought to look like.
They suck, man.
They're the worst.
Terrible.
And then when I saw your press release, I was like, oh, that's so awesome because it immediately provides it like imagery and a backdrop to the music. And there's like a talking point, and I just got envious.
But that talking point is like such a huge problem too, because it like for some people it crosses over into like gimmick territory, but for us it's like this is our life.
Our talking point is real and very.
It's just been our part of our life and like forever. Yeah.
You risk when you make it your talking point, which it's legitimately is, and I want people to know that. But then it starts to feel contrived or like a. And then that it's like kind of hurtful when people get that perspective over like a very real important part of your life, and people are like, "Oh, that's just for the press release." You're like, "I lived that."
Well,
like,
that's what we were talking about.
That's my reality.
We were like, I think like it feels very sincere, but I'm kind of curious whether it's like if that comes from
for it to be. I wrote our bio myself this year because our first album cycle, which was also closely tied to a sailing trip that was life-changing for us, people were starting to feel like it was really canned and like saccharine and like kind of eye-rolly or something, and I was like, oh, that sucks. And it felt like it was because somebody else wrote it. So I thought at least for this time it will be like more diaristic, like me explaining, like it's really hard to try and constantly instill the humanity behind bullet points about your life. And
when you just got to summarize it
and
then talk to it in sort of short form conversations.
Exactly.
So how do you keep it authentic? How do you find that sort of middle ground where it doesn't feel like you're regurgitating the same things or it doesn't become contrived? Well,
for the bio, I experimented with writing basically like a journal entry almost, and then I had footnotes that would have those stupid blurbs like band formed in 2000 whatever, comprised of Patrick Riley and Alaina Moore, like just like the things that you're supposed to know, like way down at the bottom of the page, and then just like a very personal, like first person account of like, you know, where it came from, and I felt like that helped a lot. And then people, honestly, it's different because for us, our band tries to convey the real, like, lived experiences through our songwriting and through our stage presence and everything. Some bands work off of like a persona and contrivance and artifice is like built into it.
Yeah.
So they might not have this problem that I have of like trying to be the realist me, because I can't come up with a character of, I don't
I'd love
have
to
one.
see your false character.
Yeah, I wish I could be like a Lana Del Rey or a Father John Misty or something, but I'm Father John Misty, who knows? Josh Tillman might just be that person, but it's hard. I feel like it's character. But I don't have one. It's just like regular old me. So I want people to like have a window into my life as much as possible.
Okay, so let's wrap it up. Shane has one question.
It was originally a two-part question, but I'll
do both parts, because I already know this will be my favorite part of all of our press today.
How cool is it for you to play Coachella? And how cool is it for you to be at Coachella?
I don't feel 30 when I'm on stage at Coachella.
I don't feel
even
32,
though I am 30.
even though I am 32. Yeah, it's
Do you mean 30
insanely
as
cool.
well, or you are 32?
I'm 32.
I'm 32, like 30 as well.
In
Yeah.
that sense, I feel really cool.
Yeah, no, this is amazing. I mean, we obviously have that same we have the same experience of like sojourning here as like youngsters. He was a senior in high school. I was a freshman in college. We didn't know each other.
We both associate this with like being in high school, because that's when we first went here, was in high school.
Amazing.
Yeah, I came to see Broken Social Scene play.
Hey, Canadian.
Nice.
Yeah, I think at like the same time slot as we have now. And of course, I missed them because I got here too late. But I feel like it would have been great.
But we both came here too to see Radiohead,
Yeah.
and Radiohead's playing on the same day as we are.
That's so cool.
So it's very full circle at the same time.
Last thing, my roommate, Mike's brother, Greg, his lovely girlfriend, Cara, her college band covered Marathon.
Oh,
nice.
Cute alert.
Yeah, and they were called White Wine. They never played any shows, but they covered that song. And I'm trying to get him to
that's
send
so
the
cute.
SoundCloud.
White
He
Wine
won't
is
do it anyway.
Well, while we're waiting, so I was going to ask if you were Canadian, because I heard, are you all Canadian?
Yeah.
All three of us, yeah.
My mom's from New Brunswick.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah, I have dual citizenship.
Hey.
It's called Lower
guys are really
Brighton.
opening up now.
It's really, really small. We have to fly into Bangor, Maine, and rent a car and drive like 3.5 or 4 hours to get there. She lives right off the St. Johns River.
Oh, wow.
Were you going to say you could tell we're Canadian because of the way we speak?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Because it's the same way it's not like a crazy accent. It's just the way my mom talks. I used to say tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
Yeah, and people would be like, that's not how you say it in elementary school. Tomorrow is like the American way. My mom says tomorrow. There's a few other ones that I can't remember right now, but yeah, it's just like a subtle thing.
All right, so Mike is the host.
We're just going to jump into this
We'll
thing.
chime in occasionally. That's Shane back there.
That's right. Shane's on the chill. On Shane's vibe. No, I like that.
I kind of wanted to start with, it's always interesting when sort of British bands rise to prominence. Can you sort of talk about, I guess, like how the band started and then progressed to this point where you guys are like playing huge rooms at such a young age?
Well, we were all in different bands before Blossoms. So I was in a band with a couple of friends from school.
I was a big fan.
Yeah, me and Joe.
Oh, yeah?
But me and Joe were already friends before. Like we've been best friends since we were like 12. But Joe couldn't really play the drums then, and I couldn't play an instrument.
Still can't really play the drums now.
I started learning keyboards and stuff when I was like 12 or something. But only got to like James Bond level, and then never learned anything else. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just got out of science for a little bit.
Yeah.
Doing music lessons. Anyway, so when these bands kind of became a bit stagnant when we were like 19 or something like that, I was writing some different songs which kind of felt a bit more, don't know, well wrote, or just a bit more like real songs, I suppose.
You said they had a different vibe. That's why you just got to me.
And I had my first girlfriend and stuff like that. Do you know what I mean? So you're actually writing about real stuff. And then usually in a band with Charlie, who's the bass player in Blossoms, and he has a rehearsal room like in his granddad's scaffolding yard, which we could use for free. So it wasn't being used by your band because they'd become kind of.
Well, so it was one of them things that I'm really like, I don't know, very driven. And like when I have something in my head, I want to do it and I want to do it now and stuff. And I wanted our band, my old band, to rehearse all the time because I think it's dead important. And they weren't really that bothered, and like a few people like quite chilled. Like I'm sure people who've been in bands have had before. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you had more drive than anybody.
Yeah, you were all on the
exactly.
same page. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So you need
I
to
was,
find people.
I was a
who
bit like that,
are
and then Tom said he was writing these tunes, and Charlie said, and then funnily enough, they both said the name Blossoms to me at separate occasions about another band. So I was just like,
You said it was a good name for a band. It's a pub in Stockport. So I went past it with Joe and was like, oh, it's a good name for a band before Blossoms, and so did Charlie, before I knew Charlie.
So I was like, oh,
So that's a bit
we
strange.
need to get this going, because then we've got this room, and I knew Charlie was just as dedicated as I was. I knew Tom would get dedicated if he, you know, because he's like the songwriter, so he'd want to do it. And then we got down and just.
We knew Josh through. Joe used to date Josh's sister.
Yeah.
Then we used to go to parties at Miles's flat. So over that kind of
How old
summer.
are you guys?
24.
23. I'm 24 next week.
Ah, nice.
But I was 20 when we started Blossoms, or maybe 19. Can't remember. But anyway, so quickly, as soon as we got together and rehearsed, it felt different to them other bands we've been in. Do you know what I mean? And we made the mistakes in them bands of, say, being given 50 tickets off a promoter, you go and sell them,
You
but
have
then
to sell 'em.
then it's only your parents
Does
and
that
your friends.
happen over here as well?
Oh yeah, there's like a whole industry. Like
So
there'll be
shit,
battles
innit?
of the bands
Yeah,
and shit.
exactly.
You gotta
So
move
that
this
kind of
many
thing.
tickets.
Yeah.
But
We-
you already bought them. So
With Blossoms, we didn't do any of that. We put on gigs for free, or just like
Well,
£2 on the door, and then we'd put the money back into the band.
I used to look into it loads, because I was always like really annoyed by promoters, and especially if we sold like 30 tickets getting nothing back or anything. I was like, what? So I just got in touch with venues on my own, like, and missed out promoters.
cut them out of the middle.
Yeah, exactly. And
go
we're just
direct.
like, oh, how much it's higher? And it was like half the time it was like, sometimes it was even free, and they kept all the bar.
Yeah, they
so
just
then
wanna
we
sell
charged
drinks.
money on the door to pay for like this sound guy who was coming in, and then any money we made after that. I think our first gig actually went on a parking fine we had outside. But like,
We got paid £30 and the fine was £35.
and then all the money after that, we just like started building ourselves. So we put on our own gigs, because that was literally just as I had so much free time, and I was just looking into things like that. And just
Probably
being like,
drawing out this answer, but
Yeah,
then
no, that's what I
basically it immediately felt different to the other bands we'd been in. So we started doing gigs, and people kind of started coming who weren't just our mates. Do you know what I mean? They were like people who were into the
That's the-
music.
Sort of
that's the
developing real
test.
fans.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the
James
change.
Skelly from the Coral, who produced our record now, he heard us through someone else and got in touch. And this would have been, so we started the band properly in like the August of 13, and then by the February 14, James got in touch and was like, let's meet up. So we met up, went to his rehearsal room and like jammed in front of him, and then that's where it kind of started. And then we got a great manager just after that who manages the Stone Roses, and
band called
they work for
Cartoonist.
like SJM which is the promotions company in the UK who do pretty much every single gig. So they were like the one, you want them behind you, do you know what I mean? So then
And then did the label
they could
come
get
after
us
that?
support slots. Yeah, so
Came-
we
came a
no
lot
one
after
wanted to
that.
sign us for like a year after that.
So you're just opening
So-
gigs, getting
Yeah, so we were
on with
getting
good
great.
bands.
So where we're playing in the summer, Castlefield Bowl, we opened it for a band called James. I don't know if you know James.
No.
They do that. Sit down. You might know some of the songs. They're a big band in the UK in
Okay.
Manchester, so they sold that out, and we opened for them then, and that was like a massive gig for us. And then we got a booking agent at the same time as the management, so then they booked us on a tour at the end of the year, and then we were just bang on the road from October, and then releasing singles every like 4 months, hoping to get a record deal. And then we wrote Charlemagne, and then the record label, who were like sniffing around, went, right, we'll do it now. We'll sign
Yeah,
it.
so that was
And
the
was like
one.
the ceiling deal. And then we went straight into the studio the week after, because we built up these foundations, we had everything in place. Like we had a producer, we had a fan base. We was already selling like 1,500 tickets in Manchester. So the label couldn't really change it, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all
So
work-
we just needed them to press go and put us on posters and get us on the telly.
Get the
and all
machine
that
behind you.
Yeah,
Exactly, yeah.
It worked. We wouldn't have, like, at the time, it felt a bit shit, not getting signed so early. And it was like a bit of a struggle, especially financially. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously you need some, and we had to give up our jobs and stuff. So we were all a bit
just
like,
getting to a point where we were like, how many times can you ask your mum for a £10? Do you know what I mean? It was like, and then we got a record deal, and it was like, right, we can do it now. We don't have to worry.
It's a bit of a relief.
let's say because that happened that way, we've got like full. Sort of
But I reckon it's a
creative-
mixture of obviously good songwriting and like the songs have got to be there ultimately. But then we did have great management and we got some great support slots, which is a great way to get exposure in it. Like if you support a big band
You're going to catch, even if you catch 10% of their fans
exactly. So
and
we
convert
kind
them.
of did that, and then
even finding 5 lads who all want the same thing and are always driven as each other to get somewhere is so hard to find. Like, I'm sure you'll know. Like,
Instead of dragging people along that don't really, they just kind of want to
and
around.
one person's feel like
yeah,
they're
they're not turning up to rehearsal because the girlfriends.
Exactly, yeah.
You need to just come. Do you know what I mean? Anyway.
One thing I want to get into is sort of like the UK music press seems to be pretty temperamental with like sort of new buzz bands or bands in general. It seems like it's a big thing in the UK where they really want to pump somebody up, and then kind of almost immediately once you get a little too big, it's like they take you back down. What's your experience been like with the UK press?
You know what? It's kind of like we've had a lot of nice things written about us as well, but
You're still in the good spot.
Yeah, but we haven't. I don't think we ever got hyped to the point where there was nothing to back it up. Like it took them, for example, NME. They were like the big.
Yeah, of course we know NME. Yeah.
Yeah, but they didn't really write any big articles about us until we had a record deal.
So you flew under the radar for a bit.
Yeah. Well, they have a thing called Under the Radar.
Oh, yeah.
But they didn't put us on that until...
You were really under the radar.
So we like play. We were never in NME, but there was like bands who were like supporting us who had like massive.
Big
pieces in NME. Yeah, do you know what I mean? We didn't have anything.
We'd done the Ritz in Manchester, which was like 1,500, and they didn't cover it. They didn't write a single word about it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, surely you should be on who's this band blowing up, but they weren't. And then eventually they did come around and write about us, but it was kind of
that was
too late for it to be like.
Well, that's the sweet spot you want to be in, because
Exactly.
if you're elevated only by those guys, they hold the keys. But but if you're doing it organically and from the ground up, then they can't f with you in the same way.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I feel like almost, you know, like you mentioned, it took a while to get the record deal, and then sort of like the bigger magazines aren't paying attention. It seems kind of like part of the story. Do you guys ever get discouraged where you're like, shit, how come this, you know, why aren't they paying attention? Does it kind of inform the way you approach things?
I think we were too confident in ourselves.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like we like I can't ever recall a situation where we ever sat down for, oh God, are we like mental thinking this? Like I think we were just so focused on just what we were doing and musically what we were doing.
We had good people around us as well, like the booking agent,
us.
Box Arctic Monkeys, and he really believed in us, and it was like we knew we had like the best booking agent. And then our manager is like more than a manager. Do you know what I mean? His ideas and the way he was and how passionate he was. So we kind of just lived in our own little bubble, just thinking everyone else will eventually clock onto it.
They'll find
and
us.
they did.
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
Thank God.
I guess functionally, what did you find that it was different between the first weekend and this weekend, as far as, you know, performing?
I mean, it's a bit mind blowing, this whole festival for us.
Like, was there any lessons learned though, where you go, we tried this week one, and maybe we'll switch up the song order? And
Well, do you know what? Me and Tom were having a shower last week just before it, and we was in like cubicles next to each other. And then I was thinking maybe we should drop in, because we have a song called Favorite Room where it's just Tom and the acoustic, and it's a bit stripped back. It's a bit more crowd, and I was thinking, why we should drop that in rather than like. And then it just sort of breaks up the set a little bit and like puts a little dive in, especially like. No one really was going to be jumping around, or especially at like 1 o'clock and like 37 degrees. Do you know what I mean? Everyone's just going to watch, sit back, and half the people are just sitting at the back, listening and enjoying it. So I was like, maybe we should put something like that in.
We played it last week, so then we knew this week, we'll play that one again.
Roll it out again.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, we just maybe we're more comfortable because we just know how it works, just a bit more chilled.
Yeah.
Felt chilled.
I guess lastly, when you guys are watching other bands perform at a festival like this, are you guys able to sort of watch as fans and be like, oh, cool, or are you sort of always taking notes and going, I like that trick, or we should try something like that?
I don't think I've watched a gig and like enjoyed it as a fan for ages now.
Yeah.
Because you just can't help it. Like, you're either thinking, oh, I want a gig now, or you just stare. Me personally, just staring at a drummer, just like, oh, what's he doing? Do you know what I mean? Like, I can't just like forget about it all now.
It's almost like business. It's hard to go back to
like
that.
Tom's into filmmaking, and he says it when he watches a film now. He's like, oh, I've done that shot, or do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
you just know how it's all been set up. It's the same way when you're watching a band, I suppose, doesn't it?
You start picking it apart.
Yeah,
you just like,
exactly.
oh, I like that, or you don't just go, you don't just take it in for what it is.
Do you think there's a band out there for either of you that you could still watch as a fan?
Do you know what, Stone Roses?
Yeah, or Oasis. If Oasis got back together. Who's that?
Yeah.
Do you think Liam and Noel will ever get back together?
Maybe one day.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I hope so.
We're massive fans.
Yeah, me too. Well, thanks for your time, guys.
No, thanks
worries,
for
man.
Appreciate it.
This is awesome.
Oh, shit. Our social media guy has a question.
Shit.
Well, this is kind of just off the top of my head. I'm a little nervous now, but I was wondering, how cool is it to be at Coachella?
Not cool because it's fucking really hot.
Another band said that before too.
But it's cool in a cool sense.
Yeah,
Right.
cool. We talked to Glass Animals. He had the same answer.
right.
But seriously, guys, do you think it is cool to be playing?
Yeah,
Coachella?
totally. To us, it's like the US Glastonbury sort of thing. It's like prestigious, isn't it? And it's just cool. It's deemed as like a cool festival.
It's like I said before, it's a bit
Everyone in the
mind-blowing.
VIP area looks famous, don't they? You're like, who's that?
Yeah. We had
like
a lot
the
of celebrity
Yeah.
gawking last
Yeah,
weekend.
and it's just like the caliber of people here are just all beautiful. Do you know what I mean?
my
I feel
God.
like not worthy. Do you know what I mean? Like, everyone's walking
You
about. and
guys
just
look
like,
amazing. We've just been, our Kels have just been admiring your style, like because
We've been so boring on this tour, haven't we?
I know, us too. We're
We've had
notoriously boring. band.
severe jet lag, I think. So it's been like every night we'd be like, yeah, we'll go for a drink. Then after I set, oh.
Yeah, but it's looking pretty good right
It's
now.
been a shame. Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys. I
No,
really
thanks very
appreciate
much.
it.
No worries,
Thanks
dude.
for having us.
Welcome to everybody's favorite part of the show, the dessert, where we have our pop culture aficionado Shane Cunningham come on and tell us what's what. Shane, what's going on?
So we went to Coachella.
It's a fact.
For people just tuning in now. And, you know, it was, I won't lie, like I was really worried about this trip for no other reason than, in case people don't know, when we do this pod, we usually have a week gestational period where we send it to people like a little sample group to see what's offensive, what should be taken out, what's boring, what's not working.
Right.
And normally a lot of stuff I say gets removed. But even Max has been in a situation where it was like, oh, better take that out and come back and re-record a part. Just because, you know, it's 2017, we have to be hypersensitive, and sometimes things come out wrong. And we have to redo them. So on this trip, I was trying to be hyper cognizant of the fact that it's on the fly. We don't have our normal safety net of approvers and people telling us. And you, Mike, were just going to edit it, and it was just going to go to air as is pretty much.
We were flying live, basically.
I was really trying, and this did backfire. I was trying to be as PC as possible when we were talking. You did edit little chunks out, but then it came to a point where Max had suggested I do a bit on my own.
That's you're blaming it on me now.
Well, no, it's clearly my fault. But originally, your idea was make fun of me. Like I like doing streeter stuff. But it is hard because if you
streeter interviews are, you know, when you
like
go
man
to,
on the street stuff.
Man on the street, it's basically, typically the gag is you're kind of making fun of the person unbeknownst to them in a clever way with little quips. So when you wanted me to make fun of Coachella people in their ridiculous outfits, I was a little hesitant. I'm like, I'm going to...
It's your specialty, man.
I know, but I'm going to come off bad. Someone's going to get offended. They're going to think I'm an ass. So I started writing a little bit where I would make fun of someone's outfit, but I'd give them a line to make fun of me back.
Cool.
And
that was a good idea. Why don't we do that?
Well, then when I was out there, there's always a band playing at Coachella. That's the problem. So it's so...
For some people, that's the reason they go.
It's so loud, you can't really communicate. It's like, what? But I thought it was a pretty good bit, and then it would be a self-deprecating bit and get away with it. But then you had another idea, Max. This is the one that got me in trouble, which is let's talk to a internet celebrity.
Because there's a lot of internet celebrities around. I originally said it would be interesting, even for Mike to interview them, to ask about like, okay, so you have like 100,000 followers on Instagram. What's it like, you know, dealing with your sponsors, and like, how do you pose for like these weird pictures with your watches and stuff like that?
How does this job work?
Yeah, how does your job work? That's actually the angle I was going for.
I honestly, then I thought, what's a good angle? And I remember I did an interview with you where I kind of play this character that's kind of like a buffoon interviewer. And I remember,
you can find that online somewhere.
Yeah, and it's basically like I ask you a bunch of stupid questions, and I have the routine kind of set up in my head, and I do it, and you're kind of unsuspecting, but playing a character because you knew it wasn't my real personality.
Yeah.
And I don't know, guys in your band really like that. Like I think Nick from your band said it was his favorite interview you've ever done. He did say that, right?
I believe it.
Yeah. So I get kind of pumped to do this now. I'm excited. And I wrote about 50 questions. We had our friend Matt Unsworth down there. He's a comedy writer, and Sean Dawson's very funny. And even the Nut were helping me whittle my 50 questions down to 10 questions.
You were really preparing for it a lot. Like you didn't like go out the night before. You woke up early the next morning.
I did.
Like, where's Shane? He's in his room working on the questions. I'm like, what the hell?
I did go out, but I was working on the bit while I was out. The whole time I was thinking of it. And then I did wake up early. I woke up at 8. The interview with Melissa Merk was at noon. She was coming to our Airbnb at this like beautiful...
And explain who Melissa Merk is.
Melissa Merk is an attractive Instagram celebrity. She has like 90,000 followers. She's a YouTube personality also. So I woke up at 8. The interview's at noon, and I just practiced. Like I memorized this whole routine. I practiced it in the mirror over and over again. My character. I liked my hair looked all disheveled. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna play it like I'm kind of like sleazy. I'm gonna open a button of my shirt, and I kind of wanted the vibe to be like Zach Galifianakis in between two ferns, mixed with like, you know, Conan when he has like a lot of late night talk show hosts do this. When there's like a really attractive woman on a talk show, like Conan's like, I don't know, and he does that like noise.
He used to do it with Rebecca Romaine all the time.
Yeah,
that
it's like, take
gag.
my wife, you know, take her. And it's always like jokes like, hey, well, you know, my wife doesn't know I'm with you. And there's jokes like that, and it's always cutesy, and he gets away with it, and it's a big hit.
We see where this story's going.
Yeah, so inexplicably, I thought it would be a good idea if I'm playing this sleazeball role, like where I'm like, hey, we're here with Melissa Merk, and she's got 90,000 followers, but hello, after today, make it 90,001. And it's all gags like that, right?
Yeah.
And then it was going kind of well. Like it was in a pocket where I could probably get away with it. But then I decided to take my wedding ring off and throw it in the pool, like to show like, and I asked her what would happen if I slid in her DMs. But in my mind, I'm like, this is such a character. Like,
obviously,
people would know I would never do that, but maybe they don't know that. Apparently,
well, if you were to do it, you wouldn't do it on camera.
Exactly. So
you're not
I'm a
helping his
stand-up
cause.
guy. I do it behind closed doors where no one will ever know. And I say bro code. Don't tell anyone. But, and you know, at the end of the bit, I was like, at the end, Melissa, we dance. And I stand up and I start dancing. Again, that's a tip of the hat to Conan for when he was on The Simpsons. He's like, now I dance. And he just stands and dances, right? So I'm hugely inspired by Conan here, and I'm thinking I'm playing it off just as well as he does. We do the dance thing, and she walks off, and I have a feeling in the pit of my stomach that it just went weird. Like my character wasn't right. I played it kind of almost like too drunk and nervous, and I wanted to be more like confident sleazy, but I just played it a little awkward, and no one's really saying anything. Then we go to Coachella, and Nut's like, I want to see this bit. And the Nut is notorious for ripping me apart when something's even mildly bad. He'll just tell me, you're horribly unfunny, this is brutal, this sucks. So I really don't want him to see it. But Mike throws it on, and first joke, Nut is cracking up. Then Mike's howling. Then Sean Dawson, everyone is laughing like this is the best bit of all time. And Mike's like, oh man, like people are gonna love this. People are gonna go crazy. He's like, you're gonna get like other jobs because of this. I'm like, I am? I mean, I am. Like, I start feeling very good about this bit all of a sudden. I get cocky. I start cracking beers like I'm like going viral or something.
Because you had the approval of four of your friends.
But then I'm like, oh, in the morning, it's not gonna be like this. The people aren't gonna be like, it was 3 a.m. when people were watching this and they're kind of drunk. So I go, Nut, don't watch it again. I want to remember this like this. He goes, oh, I'm watching it in the morning. So I'm in the shower, and then the Nut's like, Shane, just watch the video again. I'm like, oh no. He's like, it's a hit. So I'm like, okay. Now I'm getting very excited because I've got the Nut's approval, everything. I'm like, Mike, send me that video. I'm putting it on Facebook. Just to like start the ball rolling to get viral.
Get those hits.
And then I put it up, and then I got a very upset phone call from my wife shortly after. And then I'm like thinking about it. I'm like, okay.
Oh, so what was her complaint?
The ring being tossed. And I did a bit like this in Hawaii where I took my ring off. And I made a joke about how women keep hitting on me, but I'm a happily married man. And I kept lining up glasses of alcohol, and as the alcohol went down in the glass, my ring would get further and further away from me. The bit killed. It honestly did. People were loving it, but she warned me, don't do any more wedding ring humor while you're there.
She had one request.
Yeah. So she was very upset, and then I started panicking. I'm like, wow, everyone in her family follows me on Facebook. My parents follow me on Facebook now. They just, you know, I got married recently, so that's when all the parents are like, we just want to look at your wedding photos. So everyone's adding me to Facebook who I do not want on Facebook. You know, because I'm not like this character. I'm a very, like, in real life, I'm a quiet, like, overly antisocial guy. I'm not this, like, Alice called me lecherous in the thing. Like, I'm not this, like hitting. I don't talk to people. I don't talk to women in real life. So this was just purely for the character. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, am I lying? Like, I maybe say 50 words a day, honestly.
100%.
So Then for the sake of this pod, I start writing which I thought would be funny, like a letter to the press, kind of like a press release to cover me.
Wait, so because your wife was offended and you feel like her family,
and I
your
felt
family,
bad, and I'm honestly upset by this.
This is your mea culpa.
I'm embarrassed too.
But do you think that the bit was good?
Here's the thing. I'm proud of it, but I also acknowledge my humor isn't like everyone's. And if someone's hurt by a bit, it's not good. So as I'm writing this, I get this message from one of my wife's friends, literally as I'm mid-typing it. Listen to this. It's on publicly on my Instagram. I don't get it. Is this interview supposed to be funny? It really comes off as offensive to both your wife and the woman you are interviewing. You come off as a lost, hungover, 30-plus-year-old puppy who can barely contain his boner.
Parts of that's true, but...
Well, yeah.
Super lame at Shaney Boy. So now my little press release has taken a whole new meaning. It's more serious than ever. So... yeah, I just said, what did I say to her? I said, hey, Justine, this wasn't real, just a skit. My intention was for it to be funny, but comedy is subjective. And admittedly, this isn't the most accessible thing I've done, so I don't blame you for thinking you missed the mark. And it's true. Like,
pretty good response. Good
comedy, is polarizing. And like that Heineken ad, I liken it. It's very similar to that. Not in success, as this only has 200 views, and it's probably upset more people. But should I read the press release?
Let's read it. You know what? Read the press release. Let's get some closure on this, because, we don't want anyone to feel bad.
Whew. Okay, hello everyone.
Before you start, could you suppress your boner?
This thing won't go down. I'm 30 plus, man. I'm just lucky it's up. Okay. I would like it to be known that the character of Shane, who interviewed YouTube personality Melissa Merk in the skit titled Shane's Digital Dessert in the Desert, which was posted on YouTube April 24th, 2017, was a fictional one. I'm aware that some people were offended by this character's behaviors and actions, in particular when the character hurled his wedding ring into the pool to suggest that he does not value the sanctity of marriage. The bizarre nature of this extreme action was supposed to be considered humorous and in no way misconstrued as a real event taking place in the real world. In real life, I consider this behavior totally unacceptable and would be mortified to witness anyone behaving this way out of the confines of a fictional skit or film. I'm embarrassed to admit that although I did receive writing help with some of the stronger jokes, the portion of the skit where the character of Shane was hitting on Melissa Merk was solely my idea and subsequently was the least amusing portions, and in hindsight, totally unnecessary to the piece. I would like to apologize to my wife, her family, women everywhere, men everywhere, and Melissa Merk, who I consider a platonic friend and much too young for me. Haha, just kidding, yours truly, Shane Cunningham.
I got my headphones on. That's it. That's all. That's our episode. Thank you so much for listening to Coachella Part 1. Next week, we'll have Coachella Part 2 with Bishop Briggs, who's returning.
Glass Animals.
And Elliot Lefko,
who runs the damn festival.
Runs the damn Coachella Festival.
You can find Mike on Much on Instagram and Twitter at Mike on Much. Big thank you to Jenna Gregory at Jenna's Doodles for providing the artwork for the show. Huge thank you to Dan Carruthers, Chris and Nicholas, who helped get us down at Coachella and was just generally helps in all facets of the show. Justin Stockman, Mike McShane.
Top man, thank you so much for hooking us up. Woo. And everyone needs to forgive Shane. He's playing a character.
I love my wife.
The Mike and Much podcast is produced by Max Kerman. I'm your host, Mike Veerman. See you next week if we don't die on the weekend.